What is going on, everyone? My name is Boit and I am back with some more Age of Mythology, the extended edition action. This is episode 4 of my Road to 2K series, the final episode where we'll see if I can make it there or not. In this first game, I spawn as Fuxi, the Chinese, and unfortunately this game is a little bit short. It is a little bit instructive though. We've got a couple of things we can touch on and some build orders and things that I'm looking for and trying to be prepared for. So I want to touch on the map first, being Oasis, a very important thing to do on these maps, especially when you're playing against gods that don't have access to multiple scouts, is aggressive scouting. You want to get those scouts over to the enemy area and grab as many of their goats as you possibly can. For example, Zeus can't really do this, Egyptian can't really do this, but the rest of the gods have a decent time. So Norse can build a second Ulfsar and get that aggressive scouting. Atlantean can send their oracles really far forward first, and obviously Chinese have the 2 scouts to start with. So while I'm probably not doing it in this game, it's something that I've recently discovered is very effective, so I'm trying to suggest that we start looking at that. Scouts need to go forward on Oasis or on get maps like Ghost Lake and grab as many of those goats as you possibly can, and then work backwards to find your own resources after you've stolen some of their goat. Now onto the build order. My kind of strategy here is I want to go for a fast second town center, play a little bit conservatively, see what he's going to be doing. Zeus has got a lot of options, so you can go Athena Rush, you can go Hermes Play, you can go 2 town centers, and I don't want to fall behind here, so I'm grabbing my early second town center. I'm going to do it really standard. 5 villages food, 3 villages wood, 3 villages gold, and then the rest food until I advance, and then I chuck a bunch of villages onto wood, bunch of villages onto gold, go for that early second town center, while putting on pressure with those 2 scouts, looking for something to attack with in the early stages of the game. Here's something I really like to do when I'm scouting my opponent's base. I really like to check their economic upgrades. So I see that he's got hunting dogs, he doesn't have husbandry, he doesn't have pickaxe, and he's getting a temple up, which essentially means that he's going for a faster advance time. 4:30 is my expected, well, maybe a little bit later than 4:30 because he was just getting his temple up then, but 4:30 is my expected advance time for someone who's on that many upgrades. I'm going to be advancing through Huangdi. The god is just so strong. I mean, the god power is just so strong. Call to Arms gives you so many free units if you use it well. I mean, just the fact that it gives you a free myth unit as well as free army is kind of bonkers. On top of that, I split my economy up. You can see I've got 5 villages on food, 7 villages on the wood, and 8 villages on gold. Definitely going for that early second town center, and then I spread my scouts onto the 2 town centers so I can see what's going on. I can see that he is hunting from that food over there, and maybe I can do some damage onto that one there when I hit the classical age. When I hit the classical age, I immediately am sending my scouts over to that food. I also cast the archaic god power, which gives you extra goat. I do this in the classical age instead of in the archaic age because you get extra goat, and also you get more goat. You basically want to save it until you are going to be sticking in an age for a while. So as I'm getting this second town center, I'm committed to that one. Also, some poor micro, a little bit of lag in the game, lose one of those scout cavalries. I'm just trying to harass as best I can as I'm sending my Mythian over to start pushing him off this resource here and trying to keep control of the map because he's advancing a little bit late considering his economic upgrades. I chucked down 2 military barracks, and as you can kind of see, my economy is about 8 villages on food, and that's it. So, and then you spread your economy out. But the idea is I want to have 8 villages on food so I can have constant villager production from my town centers. It might be a little bit more with Chinese because their gather rates are a little bit different, but normally it's 4 villages on food per town center. And then if you want more advancements, you need to do that. So I'm going to be going pretty much primarily Chokonyu, and then I'm going to be trying to put the pressure onto him. He sees that I've got this second town center, so I'm assuming that he wants to grab his own second town center, and I want to force that ceasefire out. He's sending that what do you call it, centaur in to attack me, and I'm going to be building some immortals as soon as I can in order to fend him off. But as he was under the fire from my town center, he took a lot of damage, and I got away without having an immortal there. And we'll just continue now, as if nothing's happened. I'm probably playing a little bit aggressive here as I'm sending my units forward after having a fast second town center. My opponent hasn't got a second town center. Generally speaking, this is a bad idea because they should have more army than you. But because he's building center, I feel like that delays his stables and his center and his cavalry from coming out, and I can get away with this early attack. And I'm going to be chilling over here. I see some more food villages and do some more damage to his economy, and I'm trying to lock down that town center. He does have a centaur over here already, and that's going to be a difficult one for my units to fight against. But with a little bit of micro, I should be able to get away with this one. Also, luckily, he's paying attention to his centaur at his base and not the one in my base, and I've managed to pick off both of those with a 1 immortal, which definitely should not happen. I'm also sending units to his other town center to make sure he doesn't build it. That's what I'm trying to do here, trying to keep the lead with the town centers while putting pressure on. Generally speaking, against stronger players, you just want to kind of turtle until you've got the bonus economy from that town center, but against lesser players, you can kind of do the multiple things at once and get away with it. And as we can see here, I catch out his town center being built. Still have access to the call to arms, which I can attack with him, and does force a ceasefire out. He's by no means out of this game at this point, and he just decides to tap out because he doesn't enjoy the pressure, or maybe he's got no food left or something like that. And we're going to take them 13 points and then move on to the next game. So jumping into game number 2, I spawn as Fuxi against an Oasis player on Mediterranean. I love Mediterranean, one of my favorite maps, and this is kind of, I think, maybe the first time I've played Chinese on this map, but I immediately go, well, I have access to call to arms. I can do a lot of shenanigans early in the game on land while also applying pressure on the sea. So I go for some pretty crazy attacks here and try and put the pressure onto my Isis opponent, because Isis normally goes up so late on these maps. You can get away with quite a bit of aggression on the land while doing the aggression on the water, and therefore put them on the back foot early and see what happens there. My build order for this game, I think I went 5 villages food, 5 villages wood, and then built a temple when I could, made sure I was building enough fishing ships, and in general I was trying to advance at about the 4-minute 30 mark. So I'm basically stealing from my Greek library of build orders here, so I think it feels pretty standard. There's nothing special about it. As you can see, I'm searching the shore for things. I found his priest, which means I can lock down his scouting, which is fairly useful, but mostly I'm looking to see if he's building any docks, and with 2 scout cavalry, you can kind of harass the Egyptian player off the dock, which forces him to build with a second villager or something like that. Also having my scouts over there early is fairly useful for the old call to arms god power. As you can see, I'm advancing about 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, pretty much bang on through Huangdi. I think I sent 7 villages to gold, and took actually maybe 6 villages to gold, and then sent 1 villager to build a dock and the rest onto wood. So that's 11 and 7. And then I'm looking to grab my pickaxe and my hand axe as soon as my economy allows it. And I should still be searching the shore right now for villages to harass, especially because I'm going to be coming into that next stage with the buff onto the scout cavalry damage as soon as you hit that next age. You can see as soon as I hit that classical age, he's chucking up docks really fast, trying to get them up. He's got 2 villagers on one side and 1 villager on the other side. And I'm like, wow, I've basically forcing him to stay on 1 dock if I can keep this one down. Cast the Call of the Arms in order to get an extra couple of those. Oh, actually, do I? Maybe I'm not. What am I doing here? I'm just trying to do as much damage. Maybe waiting for my myth unit is more important. Keep these scout cavalry alive as best as can, and keep this dock from going up. Super important. Get the myth unit to get over there, and then cast Call to Arms is the play. Also making sure I don't get pop blocked, get those houses pumping down. No excuse for being 45 or 45 population at this point into the game. It doesn't really matter that much, but it definitely should not be happening. As you can see, as soon as my myth unit gets close, I'm looking to use that call to arms. I'm trying to keep my my scouts alive so I can get the most out of call to arms. Using it this early and getting these extra units is absolutely huge. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work on ships, so using it on the land units is super important. And now with the 2 myth units bashing away at that dock, it's going to fall super fast, and that's water 1 for me, which means I can start producing fishing ships and getting the boom happening. There's no way that he can outproduce me now, and he's going to have to go to the next age and try and get some sort of Ancestors Eclipse onto me. But at this stage, losing the water that fast is basically spells game over. It's really hard for you to come back in these situations. And there's the dock down, and I can start bashing away at houses and doing everything that I possibly can. Throw out some barracks, get the fishing upgrade, start spamming those fishing ships as best as I possibly can. As the boom's going on, I'm looking for villagers, trying to take things out. Attacking his towers, probably a waste of time. Definitely want to keep an eye on town centers at this point. Don't want to let him grab a second town center that easily. And basically just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can. Now, unfortunately, he does drop out in this game. Normally I save when my opponents drop out, but if I feel like I've got such a significant advantage, I'm going to take the win. I've sent villagers forward. I'm putting the pressure on. And he's got no access to the water. And at this stage, it feels like I have to royally screw up in order for him to win. So I don't feel too bad about just taking the win or taking the points here in this game. Kind of felt it was a pretty instructive game though, in terms of being able to rush with Chinese on the water. Really forces your opponents to have to do something. It's actually kind of hard for Egyptians to defend against this because they actually have to get hands of the Pharaoh in order to make their Pharaoh do any significant amount of damage. And by that stage, their docks should be dead and you should have some boats really dealing damage to them. All that being said, I think normally Egyptians can have a couple of docks up by that point, so it can be a little bit less effective against some of the stronger Egyptian players. Also, with all of this added economy, I was able to get to the heroic age incredibly fast, and well, at least advance to the heroic age incredibly fast. And at that point, he drops out, and that's GG. Give me my points. Oh my god, game 3. Enough Chinese, would you? I spawn as one of the Chinese gods, Shennong, this game. It's a little bit different to the Fuxi god, but still a little bit frustrating to play the same civilization 3 times in a row. The map is Midgard, so we get to experience a little bit. And it's actually a little rematch against the guy from the last game, so he gets to have another go at me on a different map and a different thing. On Midgard, these rushes work a little bit less well because he can spread out the docks further and you can't really shut him down. So you have to kind of go for a different pathway. Though Shennong actually has access to kind of like prosperity, but for wood, which means you can spam fishing ships really fast and get a really strong food economy, funnily enough, from having the extra wood. So we'll see what I can do in this one and where it goes from there. But I'm basically going to be doing a simple boom on the water. I think 7 villages wood, so 5 villages food, 7 villages wood, and then try and advance with the remainder of my villages on food, grabbing temple where you can, grabbing a second dock as well. Super important on Midgard to grab those second docks because you want to spread your fish out as much as you possibly can because of how bizarre the fish spawns are. You can't really guarantee more than like 6 close fish to a dock, but if you can build 2 docks, that's 12 close fish to 2 docks, especially if you spread them out, and you can be in a fairly decent position there. So we're going to be advancing fairly soon. What god is it? I have no idea what these gods are. We're going through Chang'e. You can roast me in the comments for that pronunciation, but the idea is I've got so many villages on wood. I cast the extra wood thing because I want to get some more fishing ships out while I advance. I want to build some more docks. I'm trying to be really aggressive, get my docks close to my opponent so I can put that pressure on. You don't want to be building archer ships from your base and sending them all the way around to the water while advancing fast. You want to be building docks close to them and then start putting the pressure on. You want to also be getting land buildings close to your opponent so you can start tearing them down because they don't die very fast from archer ships, I guess. So That's super important. So sending those forward villagers, getting those extra fishing ships out while you're advancing. All of those good things. I've got 15 villagers on wood. I think I should take a couple off, which I do transfer off when the wood finishes, the wood god power finishes. And we're good to go there. As soon as I hit that classical age, I'm thinking about building that barracks, getting those archer ships going, getting my scout cavalry to make sure that no more docks are coming up that close to my docks. I've also got my little Quillen. This guy's kind of like a Sphinx, except maybe a little bit stronger. So I can send him forward to start dealing damage, and I'm going to start putting as much pressure onto my opponent as possible. So he advances through Bast instead of Anubis on Midgard. That generally means we're going to be looking for, well, he's going to be looking for a fast heroic kind of thing. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. That means I have to get my heroes out. And I'm basically waiting. I always give my opponents like 30 seconds from when they advance to see what they're doing, because that gives me another 30 seconds to react to a fast heroic or something like that. So if I see archer ships in 30 seconds, I assume he's staying in the classical age and basically just misclicked the god, or wants to put some pressure on a little bit later with Ancestors Eclipse, doesn't like Plague of Serpents. Or if I don't see any archer ships in that 30 seconds, I'm expecting fast heroics where I need to get my heroes out. I need to get to the next age as fast as I can. And as you can see, I'm trying to react here by building fishing ships, because I think he's not going to be fighting the water here, but soon I think we do see that he's going to be building some of those archer ships. I'm going to have to change things up. Look, I'm grabbing all my upgrades instead of spamming these archer ships as much as I can, and we see the archer ships pop out, and now I have to react to him, microwaving as best as I can. He actually doesn't have as many archer ships as I think he should at this point, considering I stopped production. However, I think his ships are potentially, oh no, they look at roughly the same stats, so I should be able to take these fights fairly easily. Trying to shut down his wood income by picking off that watchtower and then going for his villages, and trying to do as much as I possibly can. I've got to be really worried about those wolves there with that villager. I'm pretty sure I do lose that villager to those wolves. And I do manage to pick off his dock. Now, I think that, for some reason, I think that this god power does more closely targeted attacks here, but it really doesn't do very much to villages at all, and he actually gets away. I didn't realize that god power did so little to villages. I think it's really effective against army, and in the future, I definitely want to be using that god power against army and not against anything else. So live and learn there. Because I got that fishing upgrade kind of early, it really gave me access to quite a lot of resources in terms of food. Also, I took villagers from going straight to wood. So normally when you get to the classical age on water maps, you send your villagers to wood first. And basically when you get to about 18 to 20 villages on wood, you can transfer over to gold or food based on what you need to do your next action. So some people want to go for second town center, some people want to go for heroic age or things like that. I chose to go gold and go for heroic age because I had all that food income from the extra fishing upgrade that I managed to do there. So now I've got access to Zong Kui, which has Uproot, which means I can really shut down any sort of Migdol plague, because I'm pretty sure Uproot is a broken god power and can basically kill any buildings. So going to be saving that one. Also, splitting up my villages on gold, super important. If you can afford to, separate your villagers on resources so that they can mine them more efficiently, and if you get hit by a raid, it doesn't do as much damage. As soon as I hit this heroic age, I'm looking to grab town centers and grab map control. I'm super far ahead right now, and as you can see, he's looking to send his villagers out, potentially grabbing different locations and potentially grabbing that town center actually. So I'm looking to grab that one as soon as I can, and he's going to be doing a little bit of villager fighting, and this is super easy to deal with. You just have to micro the archer unit that's getting attacked away, and the rest of them just keep attacking, and you're golden. Also, remember to get your economic upgrades when you're this far ahead. Make sure you get further ahead. That's a rule from day 9. When you're ahead, get further ahead. If you've ever watched him, he's my inspiration. All right, we'll continue on. Looks like I'm moving in here. I'm trying to count resources. So see how much gold he's got left in that gold mine, and then make sure that I'm going to stop that. I see he advances through Nephthys. So when he gets through Nephthys, I'm building my immortals. This is something you can kind of abused if you're playing against people that are reactionary like myself. Like if you see Nephthys reactively and build your Immortals, it means your opponent has a window of about a minute where they can cast Ancestors Eclipse, which he does cast, and I can't deal with this, so it's actually a defensive cast, which is good for me, but I can't stop it. So he gets what he wants from it. He gets the pressure relief, and I'm not able to just kill that that location off. I do have my Immortals pumping out now, but a little too late, and I'm going to lose a bunch of Chokonu to this Ancestors Eclipse. I do have the town centers though, and I feel fairly good in my position, especially since I have made or forced a defensive Ancestors, which is something you want to be doing against Egyptians as much as you possibly can. Now, at this point, I'm just looking to build villages and lock down gold mines. I've got every gold mine that I think he can grab under lockdown until I see that his gold is gone. I'm pretty sure he somehow manages to sneak through onto that back gold mine, even though I've got complete line of sight over pretty much every path. So potentially he sent those villagers over earlier, but as you can see, his gold mine is finished here, and he's sending his villagers forward looking for resources to gather, and every single villager I pick off at this point is worth so much because he's only on one town center. So it's really big that I pick these guys off, and basically this game continues until I can figure out where he's mining gold from. So it's kind of unlucky for him. I'm going for that third or fourth town center, or even fifth town center, and I see his army over here, which basically gives it away that he's up here mining gold. So now I can just send all my army over there, leave a couple of guys behind, just make sure he doesn't sneak another Migdol stronghold over there, and I can grab this town center and cast Uproot onto his Migdol stronghold, and I should be able to take that one down. No real issues, and we can see that he's moving over there, and he's actually also trying to take out my water, but at this point my economy is too huge, and even if he does kick off my water here, I'm gonna be fine. Cast that Uproot. Now I'm starting to pick off the rest of his gold mines, and it's going to be really difficult for him to make any more units in this game. And I got a 5-to-1 town center advantage here. It is kind of hard to finish off Egyptian players, but it is possible to gold starve and force some resignations. So that's kind of what we go for here. And he decides to tap out when this siege is too much. And I get those 17 points. Whew, let's go on to the next game. Okay, so we're going to be jumping into game number 4. I roll Thor against Isis on Oasis. This is a fairly good matchup, and I know it pretty well. I've played it quite a bit on Nilla, so Titans is a little bit different, and then Extended Edition has a little bit of other quirks to it. But essentially, you want to go for those early second Ulfsarks, and you want to be shutting down scouting. That's the most important thing. You want to find their priest. So you send your Ulfsarks forward, both Ulfsarks forward, and search their base around until you find an obelisk, and then you scout around that obelisk and try and find their priest. And then once you find their priest, all of the goat are yours on the map, which is huge. He probably won't know where his giraffe are. So those are the big early game things that Thor wants to be doing on Oasis against Isis. Also, little sneaky micro tips. In order to get that one favor for Pig Sticker, if you just grab one villager, attack. Well, basically, you need to, I think it's 6 attacks from villagers or 7 attacks from villagers. Gives you one favor. So you want to quickly animation cancel the other zebra with those attacks and get Pig Sticker as fast as you possibly can, which gives you a lot of stuff there. I do find that obelisk. I make a little bit of mistake here. I should not be attacking and killing the obelisk just yet. I should be scouting rapidly around that one because I found his first obelisk, which is really important. Which means I know his priest is close to there, and if I'm the Isis player, I see an Ulfsark attacking my obelisk, I'm going to try and run in the most illogical place possible in order to avoid detection. And I can see that those goats were moving towards my opponent's base there, which means he's probably scouting out with that priest, and luckily I find him, and that's going to be huge. He's not going to be able to find anything with that priest, and I'm going to be able to use my other Ulfsark to find all of the other juicy goat and feel really, really strong in this game. As for build order, I built one gatherer, then a second Olsark, and then I put a bunch more gatherers onto food. I think it was 4 or 5. Then I built a villager, oxcart villager. So I've got 2 villagers on wood. I've got a dwarf on gold as well. And then we're basically just playing around here. Norse is a bit of a funny one. You can kind of put villagers wherever you want, and the end goal is going to be 5 villagers gold, 5 villagers wood, 6 or 7 villagers food, and advancing to the next age when you possibly can, grabbing those houses when you can. Also, you don't want to build the temple too far forward. Make sure you build it in your base just in case he goes for aggressive classical fight. You can't really defend against that one if you're too close to him. Now, I choose to go through Freya here for the simple fact that I want to make raiding cavalry this game, and I also want to make that early Valkyrie shut down his giraffe there. So I'm going to be going through Freya in order to grab that one. A lot of people think that Forseti may be the better god to go against Isis because you get access to Hall of Thanes, which means your Hersa basically do a little bit better. But I'm a firm believer that Hersa are a trash unit and you should never build them. You can build a couple of them, but they shouldn't be your main part of your army. So Hall of Thanes with Thor, generally not as good as simply just getting armory upgrades instead, because Hersa are basically double the cost of every other Norse unit. So if you don't build them, you can get so many more armory upgrades and feel real good about yourself. So I also go for a fast second town center in this game. I've been experimenting with like different ways to play Norse, and I actually feel like you can really get away with building a couple of Ulfsark out of your town center in the early classical age in order to get that second town center up. Now, if you think about this from the perspective of a Greek player, Greek players need to build heroes from their town center. Now, these heroes take anywhere from, I think it's 15 seconds to 30 seconds to make, even maybe more, which is a couple of villages like villages you don't get to produce. Now, Ulfsark take 7 seconds or 9 seconds or something, which if you build 2 Ulfsark from your town center, that's equal to 1 gatherer. But if you can get that town center up 15 seconds faster because of it, you can get that gatherer back. So that's kind of the thinking there. And if it's not something I try in this game, but it's definitely something that I've been experimenting with recently to some fairly decent success. And now I'm going to start pumping out those raiding cavalry. So I spot him going for that second town center, but I'm there a little bit late. Luckily for me, this town center doesn't really protect anything. That's a big thing you need to work out when you're going for those second town centers. Does it give you anything? Generally speaking, you don't want to grab that second town center unless it gives you something. So this town center almost gives him a gold line. It kind of gives him a wood line, but I'm not going to be able to cut him off wood anyways. But essentially all he's getting from this is villager production. So I can put a lot of pressure on around that location without having to deal with the town center. And I should be fine, and I should be able to go for some sort of a gold starve or even a heroic age timing push here with Bragi. So that's kind of the idea. Definitely want to get that armory up relatively soon so I can start getting out copper mail to deal with the classical units of Isis, and then also copper shields so I can deal with his chariot archers. Also, another huge thing that you have to do as Norse against Egyptian is wall up the map. You don't want to give them access to the map with chariot archers. You don't want him to be able to move around easily. The good thing about walls, they counter chariot archers because they can't kill them. It doesn't work so well against Greek because Greek can just bash them down with Hippocon, but against Egyptian, it actually slows them down substantially, which is kind of something you really need as a Norse. Time to set your army up in the right position to deal with your enemy's army, try and surround them and do all the good things here. Another thing to note that I'm doing, which is a little bit strange, I kind of build dwarves like a madman because you have so much economy in gold as Norse, mostly as Thor. You can get away without building gatherers, and especially because they have the extra economy, you can get away without building gatherers, which means you can build so many more raiding cavalry and also get to that next age really, really fast because you're not spending that 100 food every 14 seconds. Instead, you're spending 120 gold, which is coming in so much faster, and you can get to the heroic age really, really fast. And you can see it's like 10 minutes, and I've already got nearly 800 food and over 500 gold there. And there we go. Bragi is incoming. 11 minutes, 90 population. Should be able to get to that 130 population around about the time I need to cast Flaming Weapons, which is going to be really, really good for me. Another huge upgrade for Norse when you're going raiding cavalry is heavy cavalry. So basically Norse units are flies. They die like flies. They're like so weak. They're paper thin. But once you start getting those upgrades over your opponents, they just do so much damage. And it's like a classical Egyptian player cannot deal with heavy cavalry, even if they have medium infantry and some upgrades. They just can't deal with it. So at this point, I'm going for that heavy cavalry, and I'm just going to be taking all of those villages out. And you can see he's running for this gold mine while trying to secure that top gold mine. I've got enough units on everything, and I'm just going to be murdering his villages here. And he starts to tap out at this point as I've shut down the map here. Also, building longhouses around your opponents. Gold mines is another little trick you can do. You don't want to be building wall segments because that's kind of considered cheating, but you can build longhouses around them to devastate him and manage to gold starve my opponent here and pick off a bunch of villages and get ahead on the economy, and that's how we manage to win. If you're playing Isis on this one, really big important thing is to secure that second gold mine. If you can secure that one, then you're kind of in a good position to fight in the game. If you can't, Norse really comes out ahead. So moving on to game number 5, I managed to roll one of my main gods, Isis, in a matchup I know fairly well. It's Isis versus Zeus, and on a map that I know very, very well, Savannah. And on these maps, it's really important, it's imperative that you scout with your pharaoh and don't empower that resource at home, because you need to know as much as you possibly can about the map layout. You need to know where all the gold mines are and what you can do in order to secure them. So I send my scout around with I scout around with my priest and my pharaoh in order to find as much stuff as possible and get that hunting dogs a little bit slower, but you know, it's totally fine. I don't feel like you lose out on all that much. Also want to get that early gold miner to be gathering that 10 gold so you can build a second obelisk as soon as you possibly can. I think potentially it would be better to send your second villager to gold and then put more villagers to food, but much of a muchness. Just run around with the priest until you have that extra 10 gold. Picking up a bunch of goats here, which is great. Goats mean I can stay in my base and still get to the heroic age and do some real damage. Things I'm concerned about against Zeus on this map is a centaur play. If my opponent does anything else, maybe Athena rushing is a little bit of an issue. If my opponent does anything else, one town center, aggressive play is so hard for Zeus to deal with. So the reason you want to go centaur here against Isis is Ancestors Eclipse gets really shut down. You can put a lot of pressure onto him, onto like the exposed hunt groups, and you can start sending around multi-raid attacks and dealing with basically the Egyptian player as best as you possibly can. And that's because you only have access to Jason and Odysseus, which is not really enough to deal with Ancestors Eclipse, especially when an Isis player has chariot archers and siege towers. It's really difficult microfight for the Greek player, but it's really important that he does that kind of thing. So my build order here with Isis is more of a template. My template is 5 villages food, 2 villages wood, 3 villages gold. And in any sort of order, it doesn't really matter. It depends on what I want to get out first. I'm pretty sure I got my wood villages a little bit early here, so I could get early pickaxe, so then I could get some extra priests out, squeeze those resources. It does slow some other stuff down, like I'm not sure, maybe slows down Flood of the Nile or something like that. But it's great, it does get that early pickaxe out, which is fantastic. And then you put an extra 5 villagers on food, and then 5 villagers or 4 villagers onto gold. So it's kind of like a 10 food, 2 wood, 7 gold advance. There's a lot of different ways to play Egyptian, but this is or at least Isis, but this is my preferred way. It feels like my economy isn't suffering too much as opposed to some of the other builds, and I feel okay about myself there. A big thing with Isis, or an Egyptian in general, is spotting where your opponent's forward hunt is And then you can put on a lot of pressure with those priests and pharaoh that otherwise wouldn't do much until, except for defend. So if you're advancing to the next stage and you can spot a forward villager operation like mining or chopping or gathering food, send those units forward. As soon as you hit that next age, start attacking those villages and see what you can do. I actually managed to force out a bolt here, which is absolutely gigantic, because that allows me to go Osiris with no real repercussion. Generally speaking, Osiris is shut down by Zeus because Zeus just holds onto that bolt and forces him to go Thoth, which is not a good answer to the Zeus late game. So I feel really good now about my prospects in this game. If it goes late, I can go Osiris and feel totally fine. I'm going to be sending my Sphinx forward, start putting that pressure on, which does mean he does need to get out his Odysseus and his Jason really, really fast, and this is going to force him back into his base, which slows him down even more while I am powering ahead, getting my armory up and trying to get as many resources as I can in order to get to that heroic age fairly fast. Going to be hitting that at about 7:45, 8 minutes, and then we'll see what we can do with that. As soon as you see a second town center pop up, which my opponent decides to go for a relatively fast 2-town center. It's pretty slow, to be honest, but he goes for what looks like a fast 2-town center play. That allows me to send my villagers forward and build a forward Midgard, because I know that he can't stop me. He doesn't have anything to stop me. I'm going to have a Scorpion Man, I'm going to have a Sphinx, I'm going to have Priest, I'm going to have Pharaoh, and he's at most going to have a couple of Hippocon, maybe Odysseus and Jason, and I've just got too much stuff. I'm just going to go for that forward Midgard, and then I'll be able to attack him even faster. I've also got access to Ancestors Eclipse, and I should have been scouting him out at this point. Utilizing Ancestors Eclipse on your opponent's economy really early in the game, especially when they go for those fast 2-town centers, is ridiculously effective. If someone goes for a fast 2-town center, that means their economy is really struggling to support that. If you then Ancestors Eclipse them, that means their economy definitely can't support it. You might even pick up a couple of villager kills, and it really slows down that added economic bonus, which gives you more chance to get those timing pushes in. The other way to play this is to hold on to that Ancestors Eclipse and then use it with your army, but it's much of a muchness in which way you do it. Both really hurt your opponent. We can see that I'm scouting out now. I'm looking for someone to use my Ancestors Eclipse on here. I've got that Sphinx moving in. I see the town center is in the back of the base, so he's really not securing any resources with it. I see a bunch of units here, a bunch of villagers here, so I'm going to go for that Ancestors Eclipse at this point, especially when he starts attacking this location. He's only got a Jason out and a center, so this is going to do a lot of damage to him, and it forces him to actually put his villagers into his town center. Now I can start building siege towers and chariot archers while still making villages on the back of this. This is absolutely huge, and it's one of the reasons why Egyptian is so strong, because you can build a wood-based army and it can be really effective while still building villages. It just does so much damage. I've got my Scorpion Man attacking villages on that front gold mine, and my chariot archers are attacking. So it's not like my Ancestors Eclipse is the only thing attacking his economy. Everything else is hitting him, and at this point he's really not able to build any villages, and it's going to be really hard for him to defend here. It looks like he's got no stables or anything out either, so once all of these buildings and units come in, it's going to be brutal. He does have access to a ceasefire though, so he's got a little bit of time to play with here, and we'll see what he does with that. So obviously when the Eclipse finishes, he casts ceasefire. That's totally fine with me. I've still got a fair amount of population to play with, and I'm actually going to start building war elephants at this point, because of how many chariot archers I managed to get out, and he doesn't have any units that really deal with that. I can start pumping out war elephants and then keep building my siege towers, because my economy has gotten even stronger in the 2 minutes of heroic age I've had. I managed to put a bunch of villagers onto food, got all of those goat from the early game, and I can build war elephants, which are beefy units, which are going to be really difficult for him to kill. He basically needs hoplite to deal with them, and then the hoplite get torn to shreds by my chariot archers, and he's going to be building toxotes, which are really not going to be dealing that much damage at all. And then on top of that, the war elephants can start tearing down buildings in addition to my siege towers. So here's a really big thing to watch out for when you're attacking a town center, a hometown center with siege towers, and that's their villages. Basically, see which town center is taking a lot of damage, pull it back, and then move it back forward once your chariot archers pick off all the villages. You don't want to lose your siege towers for nothing, and if your enemy villagers are chasing the siege towers, that's all the better. And I'm going to be able to tear down this town center. I've got that forward siege workshop there to build siege towers, and it's just absolutely disgusting what you can do with Egyptians when you don't get touched. He decides to tap out. GG, well played. If I'm playing Zeus in this matchup, I'm definitely not going for that early second town center against a one town center Egyptian player. That's for sure. And we're going to be moving on to that next game, see how we do. Here we go, game number 6, my graduation game, and look at how lucky can one person get, right? This god Set on Anatolia. I'm fairly sure this is the best map for Set. He can just do so much stuff, and I'm getting a rematch against that Zeus player from last game, so he gets another go at me. And big thing about playing Egyptian on Anatolia, and the big advantage Egyptian has on Anatolia is their ability to build on both sides of the water. So you can build one dock on one side and send another villager over the other side, build a dock over that side, and generally speaking, you can get one side of the water for free. And then on top of that, Set has the added bonus of having free animals. So animals can then start bashing away at your opponent's docks and come out really, really happy because you can pick off the dock while attacking their archer ships and then take the water that way. Build order for Set on Anatolia and Midgard on essentially any water map which you want to boom is 4 villages food or 5 villages food, not sure. Either way is fine. And then 6 to 7 villages onto wood, and then 5 villages gold. And then the rest food. That's going to allow you to get 2 docks early, then get your temple, and then build another 4 docks. So you want 3 docks on each side of the water. That's why I leave my villages over on each side. I build an extra couple of houses so I don't get population blocked. You can get population blocked really easily as Set when you're converting animals. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. The one weakness that maybe Egyptian does have when you're doing this strategy is you advance quite late. 4 minutes and 40 seconds in, and I've just hit advancing. I'm going through Anubis, which does give me advantage on the water because I can get basically, it's like 7 or 8 free ships with Plague of Serpents. But it's a little bit bad because I am susceptible to early rushes on one side of the water. So a lot of people go, oh, but you're giving the other side up for free if you rush on that one side. But you're not really, because you spent, 100 gold and then the rest of that wood over there, and then your opponent hasn't spent that resource there. They've just spent it on killing your stuff for free, and then they've still got that stuff to attack somewhere else. It's a little bit of a weird argument, but that's one problem with Egyptians going this late. So if you're playing against a smart player or a high-level player, they can kind of abuse that and really take down one side of the water and make you struggle a little bit there. But that being said, my opponent's not advanced too fast or even yet. I'm not sure if, he's advanced, but got through that next stage, start building those cabinets, start putting the pressure on, move all my animals, my myth units over, my priest over so I can deal with that ceasefire the center that's going to come and try and pick off my animals. My priest there to pick that guy off, and I should be right to start tearing down some of those buildings. Also, you can see my economic layout: 11 food, 6 gold. Generally speaking, 7 gold is better, but I'm going to slowly put them on there, and then we got the 7 villages on gold, and I'm going to start putting villages over onto the wood there. I also snuck a dock behind his dock, which is a little bit cheeky, but he stole my fish, so I need to be cheeky here. So he's finally advanced to that next stage, and he's going to start building out some of those triremes. I want to put the pressure on underneath this dock while it's so close to being picked off. I'm happy to take a little bit of damage, force him to fight. He's also attacking me on the top side, which I actually didn't expect, especially at this level. And it's actually it's one of my favorite things when I've got a player that is attacking 2 sides at once. It means I have to really spread my attention around and play as best as I possibly can and quite fast. fast. But I am managing to shred through this dock and this side of the map, which is really, really good, considering it's the side that I started on. So I've got more fishing ships on this side. If he takes the top side, not too worried about that. In fact, if he did overcommit on that one, I'd give it up and then go straight to that heroic age and see how I go. I've got so many fishing ships right now, so I'm really coming up hard on the gold and food. On the food. So I put more villages onto gold so I can advance to that next age a little bit faster. I've got Plague of Serpents on the top side of the map in order to put the pressure on, force him to really commit. There is the centaur we were talking about earlier. My priest is already there to pick that guy off. A little bit of micro, and he's going to be sending his trireme forward in order to try and pick up some of my fishing ships, but I can just garrison a couple in the dock there to get that dock fire. I can build one of those barracks as well to start building some spearmen. And I can start putting some pain onto that dock as well. I managed to get to the heroic age fairly fast. 9 minutes and 25 seconds-ish is a fairly fast heroic age given the fact that I've been fighting so hard on the water there. But I see a lot of people go for early second town centers and things on these water maps. But on Anatolia, I do believe early heroic age is better, because you want to be securing the gold mines and the map. You can secure the map, you can get 4 town centers to 2 town center advantage. Also go for gold stars and things of that nature, as opposed to just having the economy being a little bit stronger. I definitely think that's going to be a little bit more important there. And I'm going to be sending my villagers forward, grabbing that town center up, and then going from there. So when I hit that heroic age, I'm looking to grab a Midgard stronghold. I've got the forward town center, or like my forward town center. So I've kind of secured the middle there, and he's claiming my civilization's a cheat civilization. What do you think? Do you think Egyptian is an unfair civilization? I couldn't really do anything about it. I do play them at a high level, so it does seem like they're quite strong, but I'm random gods, so you can't blame me for getting lucky and getting a getting set here. I can see he is building some of those axemen, hoplites, so I'm going to start building a couple of axemen to counter those instead of spearmen. Normally, I think people go for Hippocon against ice, against Egyptian and stuff like that, but he's going for hoplites, so build some axemen, get some chariot archers, start putting the pressure on. Need to delete some of these naval units as well, get some more of those town centers up, and continue here as best as I possibly can. I'm actually delaying the Midgard for some reason. Should probably have built the Midgard before the 3rd town center, but I guess because he's still fighting on water, I can afford to build some of those siege ships instead of doing anything else. And now I'm going to be moving in onto his gold mine. He's got an exposed forward gold mine, which is really nice. And it looks like he started building, gathering from that 1 second. Definitely not something you want to do. If you have got a forward gold mine, grab that one first and then move to your back gold mine. Much easier to defend. I can throw down this Midgard stronghold on top of that gold mine and then get a gold staff even earlier than intended. Generally speaking, on Anatolia, gold stars come 15 to 16 minutes instead of 12 minutes because you got the 2 gold mines in your base. But he picks the wrong gold mine to start with, and I'm going to be able to really stop him from gathering any gold this game. And again, like Day9 says, when you're ahead, get more ahead. So I go and grab his 4th town center as well. And that kind of puts the stamp on the game. It's really hard to come back when you've got a Midgard stronghold in your base. Got 4 town centers versus 1 town center. GG, well played. Currently 2K, so Road to 2K has finished. In the comment section below, if you're still hanging around, please put what series you want me to do next. Do you want me to play on Voobly, go for rank 1? Do you want me to continue here, go for 2400? What would you like me to do? Let me know. If you enjoyed these games, please rate, comment, subscribe to that notification bell. If you want to see my videos as soon as they come out, my name is Boit, and I will see you guys next time.